Well, welcome to another episode of Fantasy Reality, and hopefully should be done with these books, discussing the races and what expected classes they are to be. Now, quick refresher: Artificer requires intelligence, Barbarian likes strength, although Constitution and Dexterity are also important for these guys. Then you have the Bard. Charisma is important. Dexterity is also important. Let's see, Bard. You have the Cleric. Kind of, they like wisdom. Then there's the Druid. They too also like wisdom. Let's see here. You have the Fighter. Strength and Dexterity are their big things, depending on which route you want to go. Monk likes Dexterity and Wisdom. Then you have the Ranger, Dexterity and Wisdom. Then you have the... oh, I forgot Paladin. Paladin, Strength and Charisma. Then you have the Rogue. Dexterity is their big thing. Then there's the Sorcerer. Charisma is their big thing. Then you have the Warlock. Again, Charisma is their big thing. And then you have the Wizard, and Intelligence is their big thing. And for a lot of things that I didn't mention a secondary for, assume Dexterity would be good for them because everybody likes to have better AC. In most cases, AC comes from Dexterity. Armor class, that is. Armor class being AC. Well, let's get started with Theros. It's another Magic the Gathering setting that is now crossed over into Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of inspired by Greek mythology. There's other races that are now playable, kind of reflect that, such as the Centaur and the Minotaur making a return from Ravnica. Plus 2 new races. That is to say, new to you and me. Okay, in Theros you have humans. There's always humans. Centaur, they're basically the same as the Ravnica version. Maybe a minor change about the alignment, and they also talk about the different tribes. Then you have the Leonin. They're kind of a... well, they're based off of the lion. Let's see here, to kind of... let's just say that when it comes to the gods, they ain't exactly on good speaking terms with the gods. They're more natheists, essentially. That, oh, we know the gods exist, we just don't worship them. And in some cases, if they see a priest, certain Leonin basically taking it upon themselves to remove these priests and other speakers of the gods. Because apparently there's a lot of bad blood between the Leonin and gods. And apparently the gods of Theros tend to be jerks. Okay. I mean, there's actually a little chart about how their attitude about the gods. Like, say, they are amused by them, but they feel superior in their detachment to the gods. Or maybe the meddling of the gods makes them bitter, and that they just wish the gods would leave them alone. Or maybe they view the gods as worthy adversaries who are doomed to lose their long game. And Or they blame anything bad that happens on the gods. Or they wish that they were as naive as humans and other mortals about that think the gods are looking out for them. Or, alternatively, they don't talk about it to the other Leonin, but turns out they actually revere the gods and try to ask for their help on occasion. Well, let's see here. What do the Leonin have? They have a +2 to the Constitution, good for any class, and a +1 to their strength. So we're looking at a strength-based fighter, strength-based barbarian, or paladin, you know, anything that likes strength, right off the bat. Tend to lean towards good alignments, doesn't matter. Speed, base walking speed is 35 feet, that's a little bit faster than most. They have dark vision. They have claws. They basically, when they can make an unarmed attack and roll doing slashing damage, and roll a D4 plus their strength modifier. Daunting roar. As a bonus action, you can let out an especially menacing roar. Creatures of your choice within 10 feet of you, they can hear you, must succeed on a wisdom saving throw and become frightened of you until the next turn. DC of the save equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. Once you use a trait, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So, basically, you're playing as a Leonin barbarian or something. You have a really high constitution modifier. Oh yeah. After you knock out this guy and that guy, with your first attack and then your extra attack, let out a loud roar and watch as our buddies need to find a change of pants. You also have Hunter's Instincts. You can choose one of the following skills to have proficiency in: Athletics, Intimidation, Perception, or Survival. Something to keep an eye on. Languages, you can read and write Common and Leonin. Okay, Minotaur, same as Ravnica. Satyr is the other new race, and these goat men, they look like fun. Hey, seriously. Looks like they're throwing a big old party here. I wonder what this guy's thinking. Let's see here. +2 to charisma. So, again, anything that loves charisma, or if you need to dump charisma. And your dexterity score increases by 1. So, right away, Bard. Yeah, Bard. Now that really comes to mind. They'd love to be a Bard. So your next is, well, of course, anything that's charisma based. Although the way he looks like maybe God, although sometimes there's some unexpected aspects, but I'll go with it. One suggestion might be the cleric domain of trickery might be a fun one to go for this guy. They tend to be chaotic, usually good. Their speed is 35 feet. They are Fey, so the spells like Hold Person ain't gonna hold this goat. Ram, they can use their head and horns to make an unarmed strike. So when you hit with them, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier. There's a reason they have horns on their head. Magic resistance. They have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. That's kind of cool. Mirthful leaps. Whenever you make a long or high jump, you can add a d8 and add the number rolled to the number of feet you can cover without, and even when making a standing jump. Extra distance costs movement as normal. So They're a little bit better at jumping. Revelry. You have proficiency in the performance and persuasion skills. And you have proficiency with one musical instrument of your choice. So it's kind of, I mean, basically these guys would make for a good face. Especially if you don't have a bard in the group or a paladin or somebody else is also proficient in persuasion. Languages, you can read, write, speak, and write Common and Sylvian. Also, Triton gets a bit of a boost from the one in Volo's Guide, such as the fact that they now have dark vision. Yeah, they now have dark vision. Also, they have resistance to cold damage. So, that's official. Coincidentally, with the release of Icewind Dale, the Goliath also has resistance to cold damage. So, that covers that. Now, here's two other races that are from PDFs. The Turtle is one of them, but since we covered them in Wildmount, we don't need to worry too much about them. But here's two other races that I jot the information about down, because I couldn't print them off. They are the Grung. They look like the poison dart frogs from the Amazon and the tropical the Amazon rainforest. And they're found in the PDF, one Grung above. Like I said, they're kind of a poison dart frog. For the most part, their alignment kind of runs around lawful evil. But hey, maybe your frog was found by a wizard or somebody else who decided to take care of the little fella and at least taught him right from wrong. Let's see here. +2 to dexterity, +1 to constitution. Like I said, goes for anything. Dexterity. Again, we're looking at things like rogue, monk. It'd actually be really fun as a monk. And a bunch of other races. Anything that likes agility. Dexterity. Or if you want to dump dexterity, go right ahead. Their speed is kind of slower than most, only 25 feet, but they have a climb speed of 25 feet. They're also small, so heavy weapons are going to be used with disadvantage for these guys. They have arboreal alertness. That means they have proficiency in the perception skill, so they're really good at seeing things, which kind of makes sense, because hey, you need it. Because the way their society works, which is based on enslaving others, well, they kind of need to be perceptive of that sort of stuff. Amphibious, they breathe air and water. They also have poison immunity. That means that they are immune to poison and the poisoned condition. Poisonous skin. Any creature that grapples you or otherwise contacts your skin must pass a DC 12 Constitution save or be poisoned for 1 minute. Can attempt saving throw when not in contact. So, basically, if you're involved in a wrestling match with somebody, they gotta make Constitution saving throws. Alternatively, the poison can be applied to a piercing weapon like a rapier or a dagger. Target must again succeed on a DC 12 Constitution save or take 2d4 poison damage. If you're a rogue, this extra 2d4 damage on top of your sneak attack can make things real fun. Standing leap. Long jump equals 25 feet. High jump equals 15 feet. So they don't even need a running start for that. Water dependency. They must soak in water for at least 1 hour each day, or they will suffer exhaustion. They need to, basically, they are amphibious. They need the water. Agua. Language? Grung. They only speak, read, and write Grung, at least initially. That might be a problem. How do you correct that? Well, first off, a number of backgrounds. Well, most backgrounds grant you proficiency in one language of your choice. So, say you're playing as, say, a merchant. I believe merchants get an extra language. I'd have to double check, but let's just say merchant as an example. Or maybe you picked another background and you found that, say, gaming tools, the tool proficiency for gaming was not your cup of tea, and you wanted the language. Well, you can now say, hey, swap. You can now say that language that you just earned is common. Alternatively, let's say you're playing a ranger and you pick favorite foe. You pick humanoid as one of your favorite humanoid, which lets you pick 2 specific humanoids. In this case, pick human. And now that your enemy is one of your favorite enemies is human, funny enough, good pick actually. You can now learn common because that's the main language humans use. That being said, I could just imagine this guy as being a monk. Yeah. It's like, oh, what are you blows? Grab this guy. Oh, Constitution saving throw now. Guy now, it's my Constitution saving throws because you just punched him with your bare skin. You know, slap, slap, slap. Constitution saving throw. Constitution saving throw. Constitution saving throw to prevent being poisoned. That's just fun. You know. Next up, from Lokatha Rising, is the Lokatha. You can find these guys, you know, a description of their race in Ghost of Saltwater Marsh. They're basically like, well, some kind of ugly fish thingies. No. It's like a really ugly looking carp or something. But still, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. +2 to strength, +1 to dexterity. So, anything that likes strength, anything that likes dexterity, that's something for them to think on. Size is medium. They have a 30-foot walking speed and a swim speed of 30 feet, so that's kind of useful in a seafaring campaign. Natural armor is 12 plus dexterity, so, and it can be applied if armor lowers AC, so that's something to think on. Shield is also applied as normal. They are observant and athletic, so they have basically proficiency in athletics and perception. Basically, sailor is a useless background on these guys unless you're just getting the sea vehicle proficiency. Leviathan will. Basically, they have the advantage on a lot of saving throws. Charm, frightened, paralyzed, poison, stun, and sleep. A lot of those things will take you out of the fight. And this guy has advantage on those saving throws against them. Imagine if they have proficiency in the saving throw that is applied to that status. So, you know, that's whoa. Yeah. It's like, you know, You roll you roll a 17 or whatever, add in that your modifiers is like that high enough, or you're rolling that 20, and it's like, I think that wins. Limited amphibiousness. They breathe air and water, but they need to be submerged once every 4 hours to avoid suffocation. Otherwise they get exhausted, and that causes issues. So, basically, and for languages, they're Aquan and Common. So, basically, for your Grung and Lokatha, you got to make sure there's water around, like a stream or something. So, I don't see Lokatha being in the desert. Same thing with the Grung. They're not going to be in the desert. Although, for the Grung, given that they are small, about the size of a kobold, there might be a workaround or three I've heard about, such as you get a barrel full of water that the little fella can be in, and have said barrel of water be carried by, say, the half-orc, or the Goliath, or somebody else. It's really, like the barbarian in the group, or the strength-based fighter, or the strength-based paladin. One of those guys. Something to think of. The Lokatha, I don't know how to deal with that one, because unless you're, because, again, you gotta need a source of water for this guy to take a swimming. Although, in my opinion, if you have a bag of holding, what I'd recommend is that you get a bathtub that's filled with water. That you have some sort of cover over. Pull it out, take the tarp off, the cover off, let those fish folk take their bath or whatever. In fact, there's no reason as to why you couldn't have a couple of why you couldn't have like 3 or 4 bathtubs. That way, in the evening, hey, let's take a bath. Especially if you're, seriously, you got matches for fire, and you have water nearby. I'm certain with the right amount of work, you'd figure out the right amount of hot water and the right amount of cold water to make a comfortable bath. Seriously. Something to think on at any rate. And, the time. Still gotta play. Yeah, about 35 minutes. Well, now let's go to Tasha's. Now Tasha's changes a lot of things. Let's see here. Let's see here. First up is customizing the origin of the character. For instance, because all these previous races that I've mentioned, their stats, their +1s and +2s, and their skills and their armor and weapon proficiencies, they're all set in stone. Or are they? Now, when I talked about dwarves and elves, the hobgoblins, and the Githyanki, I've mentioned how they have weapons and armor in a couple of cases, and how if they became something like a fighter, a barbarian, a paladin, a ranger, or any class that quite literally has proficiencies with those same weapons and or armor, how those racial proficiencies are made redundant. Personally, I wish that Wizards of the Coast would basically say that if both race and class overlap in terms of, say, a weapon, then you get expertise while using that weapon, better chance of hitting. And like I said, for the armor, that they have advantage on, say, a dexterity saving throw. But they don't say that. But let's see what we can do. Ability score increase. Well, let's say you were playing as a mountain dwarf, and let's say you want to make them a wizard. Well, mountain dwarfs don't exactly look good as a wizard because of where their +2s are. Strength and Constitution. No boost to dexterity. Well, no boost to intelligence. Well, guess what? We can now move one of those +2s, say the one for strength, and move it over to intelligence. Yep. And again, let's say you want to move that other +2 over to dexterity. Yep, you can do that now. And again, let's say you want to make them a fighter, but yeah, those extra weapons, those built-in weapons and armor proficiencies. Well, you can now take those extra proficiencies for, let's say, armor. You can swap that out for a simple or martial weapon, useless as a fighter, or a tool. So theoretically, you could swap out, all those armors and say swap out those proficiencies with the extra for the armor for, say, land vehicles and sea vehicles. So, hey, you're good with traveling with the cart and also good with the boat. And of course, simple weapons can be swapped for a simple weapon or a tool. And martial weapons can be swapped for a simple martial weapon or tool. And of course, you have two that can be swapped for a tool or a simple weapon. Well, let's see here. Mountain Dwarf Fighters got those, as a dwarf has those two hammers and those two axes. So this as a fighter because they already got those. So, hey, dwarves get a choice of at least one of three tools. Let's grab those other two tools, and then for those other two skills, let's grab an instrument, and maybe be Poisoner's Kit. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Languages. Let's say the dwarf language in this world is an extinct language, and that the language that dwarves speak is Elvish. Yeah. Okay, let's swap out Dwarvish for Elvish. And then there's also the skill proficiencies. Now, dwarves don't get any skills, but elves do. They have the skill perception. Well, what if you didn't want that, but instead you want performance? Yep. You can do that now. And also, as mentioned, since a number of elves get some sort of weapon bonus, and if you're going to be a fighter, those are now redundant. So, let's grab some instruments while we're at it. And who knows, maybe we'll form a band, and become a band of strolling elvish singers. Let's see here. Got useful. And let's see here. And then there's the custom lineage. This is basically a quick way to homebrew a race that isn't like any of the other races as previously mentioned. And or you have an idea but it doesn't quite fit. You basically, instead of choosing one of the game's races for your character first level, you can choose use the following traits to represent your character's lineage, giving you full control over how your character's origins shaped up. Creature type, you're humanoid. You basically determine your appearance. I mean, this is kind of good for like a home brewer. Size, you are, and of course you can determine whether you resemble any of your kin. Size, you are small or medium, your choice. Speed, your base walking speed is 30 feet. Ability score increase, you pick one ability score of your choice to increase it by 2. Then you get a feat. You pick a feat of your choice for which you qualify. Basically, if you say that you're a halfling, you can grab one of the halfling feats. If you say you're a draconian, a dragonborn, you can grab a dragonborn feat. If you say you're a gnome, you grab a gnome feat. If you say you're a human, grab one of the human feats or whatever. Or you can be your own race. You have, now one thing to note, I'll go over that in a moment. Variable trait, you have one of the following choices: dark vision to a range of 60 feet, or proficiency in one skill of your choice. Finally, languages: read, speak, and write common, and one other language that you and your DM agree is appropriate for your character. Now, here's the thing where the feat is concerned. A number of feats have a +1 that can be applied. Thing is, rules as written, you could say, take a character, let's say you're making a strength-based fighter. You can apply that +2 to your strength. So, let's say using the standard stat rate, put 15 in strength. That 15 now becomes 17 because of that +2. Now let's say you grab a feat that boosts strength, such as Tavern Brawler or Heavily Armored. Heavy Armor Master or something. Well, you now have a +3 to that stat. +3 boost to that stat. And the rules is written. This means you can start off with an 18 in that stat. Personally, I prefer to not do that, but rules is written. It can be done. You can have this character start off with an 18. That is a plus. Starts at 12, that's 1. 14, that's 2. 16 is 3. 18 is a +4 right there, right off the bat. +4 right off the bat. Most anybody else is lucky to get a +2 or +3 when it comes to a given stat. So, something to think. You know, it's kind of cool. And Tasha's really changes things, like tells you how you can change a skill, about how you can change your subclass, lots of extra feats, and it does some changes to a number of classes. And if you're a ranger, who likes being a Beastmaster but dislikes how it seems to be kind of weak. Well, the Beastmaster's got a huge increase in how it can run. You know, improved Beastmaster companions, basically. And basically everybody has some sort of enhancement that can change how that class is played. So, something to think of. Now, let's get to the most recent book. Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Woo-wee! It's supposed to be scary. Take your pick. Let's see here. These aren't exactly races so much as lineages. And the common rules for the lineages are they can choose, basically it's like, these are like templates that are applied to your character and remove certain other racial things. So, yeah. Basically something happened to your character either at or prior to usually at first level, but if this happens after first level, you gotta do some thinking. Ability score increase, increase one of your scores by 2 and another one by 1. You know. Or you can increase 3 different ability scores by 1. So you follow this rule regardless of how you determine your scores. Languages, you speak, read, and write common to one other language that you and your DM agree on. Creature type, usually humanoid. Basically something happened to your character. In this case, the lineages are Damp Fear, Hexblood, and Reborn. Damp Fears are basically half vampires, half whatever else. You might somehow contracted vampirism somehow. You're humanoid. You're medium or small. You pick. Your speed is 35 feet. Ancestral legacy. If you replace a race of this lineage, you keep the following elements of that race, any skill proficiencies they gained from it, and any climbing, flying, or swimming speed you gained from it. If you don't keep any of these elements, or you choose lineage at creature character creation, you gain proficiency to skills of your choice. So it's kind of cool. Meaning, like I said, you're a tabaxi who becomes part Damp Fear. Well, you can climb. Well, when you can still climb, you still have stealth and perception. And let's see your dark vision. Deathless nature. You don't need to breathe. Useful if somebody's been eating a lot of baked beans. Or you're in a room that's full of poisonous gas. Okay, who ate the beans? Spider climb. You have a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. So that's kind of useful. If you already have a swim speed, that's kind of cool. You can either swimming and climbing. And even better, at 3rd level, you can now move up, down, and across vertical surfaces and upside down long ceilings while leaving your hands free. So, theoretically, Spider-Man walks all over the place. Vampiric Bite. Your fanged bite is a natural weapon. This counts as a simple melee weapon with which you're proficient. You add your Constitution modifier instead of your Strength modifier to the attack and damage rolls when you attack with this bite. It does 1d4 damage on a hit. When you miss in half or more of your hit points, you have advantage on attack rolls you make with this bite. When you attack with this bite and you hit a creature that isn't a construct or an undead, you can empower yourself in one of the following ways of your choice. You can regain hit points equal to the piercing damage dealt by the bite, or you can gain a bonus to the next ability check or attack roll you make. The bonus equals the piercing damage dealt by the bite. Theoretically, you can actually use this to try and solve a puzzle to increase your ability score by fighting the barbarian. Get permission. You can find yourselves with this bite a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, if you're a paladin down here, yes, you empower it with Divine Smite, which is kind of funny. But it doesn't work with sneak attack, because it ain't, because it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that flexible trait. That's your Hex Blood. Basically, you're on your path to becoming a hag. Basically, either you made a deal with a hag, which would be good for Pact of the Fey Warlock, or your mommy was a hag but didn't tell daddy, or some other crazy thing. This year, you are a Fey, so hold person doesn't work on you. You are large or small, you choose. Speed, 30 feet. Ancestral Legacy, as previously mentioned. Dark Vision. Eerie Token, as a bonus action. You can harmlessly remove a lock of your hair, one of your nails, or one of your teeth. It is imbued with magic until you finish a long rest. You can use the following actions with it. You can send a message that's like up to 25 words to anyone that's holding this token within 10 miles. So, good for spying stuff. Remote viewing. Basically, you can see any spot where the token is. So, of course, once you do this, you can't do. Once you create a token using this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, at which point your missing part regrows. That's kind of good. Of course, when your trance is ended for the remote viewing, the token is harmlessly destroyed. So, it basically crumbles to dust. You also have Hex Magic. You cast Disguise Self and Hex spells. Well, you can cast the Disguise Self and Hex spells with this trait. You can cast using either Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Of course, you can't cast the spell again until you finish a long rest, but you can cast these spells with any spell slots you do have. So, that's something. Of course, it's also possible for an X-Blood to become a hag, at which point they become an NPC and no longer in control of the player characters. But they might be kind of, a good ally to keep around. Like say, maybe some point down the line, let's say you had a player who played a Hex-Blood. Well, let's say at some point down the line, they're now playing a different character, and the DM says, you has them head into a village, which to the players is like, this is familiar. And it turns out that player's old Hex-Blood had become a hag during this point in time, during the passage of time, and had settled in this area. And it's like, you remind me of me when I was younger. Yeah, something to think of. Then you have the Reborn, where death isn't always the end. The Reborn are basically individuals who have died, yet somehow still live. I mean, they could come back from a number of reasons. I.e., some sort of mad scientist. Maybe there's a necromancer's magic spell that went awry, or a cleric spell went awry. Or maybe some possessive spirit possessed a corpse, or anything. It's kind of cool. You are humanoid. It used to be considered undead, but, well, still. Humanoid, a little bit, probably because it makes the Cure Wounds spell a little bit easier to help. You are medium or small. You choose the size when you gain this lineage. Your speed is 30 feet. Ancestral legacy. As previously mentioned, deathless nature. You escape death effect represented by the following benefits. You have advantage saving throws against disease and being poisoned. You have resistance to poison damage. That's kind of cool. You have advantage on death saving throws. Very useful. You don't need to eat, breathe, or sleep. I mean, eat, drink, or breathe. So, that's kind of good, you know, if you're in a poison situation where basically you can essentially be the extra pack meal for food. You know. Because inevitably you're going to come across somebody who's like, oh, I need food. Yeah, have some food. And you don't need to sleep. And magic can't put you to sleep. And you can finish a long rest of 4 hours if you spend those hours in an inactive, motionless state, during which you retain consciousness. So that's sort of like the Warforged. Now that you're in past life, you temporarily remember glimpses of your past, perhaps faded memories from ages long ago or previous life. When you make an ability check to use a skill, you can roll a d6 immediately after seeing the number on the d20 and add the number on the d6 to the check. Uses a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, that's kind of cool. Especially if you failed a saving throw, you know, the information that ability check by, say, 1 or 2, well, rolling that d6, hey, does this mean a pass? Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yep. And, well, as obviously, given that those 3 races, you know, Dhampir, Hexblood, and Reborn, you know, they have those floating ability scores. Any class, let's go for them. So, you know, Reborn, you know, a Dhampir cleric, or a Reborn cleric. I mean, that is funny. You know, it's like, you're, you know, having a Dhampir paladin and a Reborn cleric. I mean, that is, you're gonna be laughing your butt off for quite. Everybody at the player's gonna be laughing their butt off. It's like, wait, you said Dhampir? That means you're part vampire, right? And you're a paladin, right? Okay. I mean, what do you think about it? Vampires tend to be charismatic. So, you know, anything that's charisma based, you know, seems to fit my, seems to fit my kind of thing. And, well, like I said, you can now move, since you can move those stats around, really good for you. I mean, as it is, thanks to Tasha's, all those characters who previously thought they were pigeonholed into a certain role, not so pigeonholed now anymore. They can move their stats around to, well, I mean, it is possible to min-max these guys. But the DM has to say, yep, or no. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. Now, thanks to Tasha's, because let's say you want to make your elf a barbarian. Hey, let's do that. We can do that now. Makes for a great barbarian now. Or, let's see here. Let's say, again, let's say you want to make that tiefling a cleric. Yay, we can do that now. An even better cleric. We can make him a cleric. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So, well, like I said, there's so many possibilities that these guys could fit, that thanks to Tasha's, they could fit any class they want to play. Any race, sub-race could fit any class they want to be, any subclass they want to be. Well, this is it for this episode of Fantasy and Reality. See you in the next one. Bye.